Whose forehand would you want?
I mean, on clay, Nadal.
Mm-hmm.
On any other surface, Roger. Roger's forehand was the greatest offensive weapon, I think. And I mean, Rafa's on clay is nobody's ever hit a ball with that much topspin. Okay, so
it's unreal.
That's the main reason he's been as good as he's been, certainly on clay. I mean, he has all the other attributes, right? The movement, he's got great touch, the heart, the fitness, but that forehand with the bounce on clay, I mean, nobody's been able to replicate that ever. That one shot, nobody.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But Roger, if you talk about on all surfaces, his ability, I call it the quick strike. The 1-2, the cross court forehand, and then he's kind of leaning in, and then boom, like up the line is past you. Like that ability to hit that shot, from all parts of the court and hit any angle. Obviously, like, his forehand could break down a little bit or he could mishit it. But when it was on, and there was nothing like it.
Whose backhand would you want?
Well, Novak, I put close to the top. I mean, not only for his range, there's other guys that have hit the backhand bigger, like Andre, for example. Andre's ball striking still, to me, off both wings in his set position is as good as anyone. Just clean, hard ball striking. But Novak has the ball striking not quite as hard as Andre, but so much more versatility, right? With the slice, with the turn, he can take it early, no problem. He can step back. And obviously his movement and his mobility, his flexibility is, like nobody we've ever seen.
What about serve? Whose serve would you want?
From whom I've seen or whom I've played against, I'm going to go Pistol Pete.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only, I mean, obviously there's guys serve bigger now, when you look at the gun. Roddick serves bigger, Isner, and you got these guys that could serve from a tree. But if you're talking about like the most clutch serving and the biggest serving under pressure and the gumption to go big when it matters most with the first, and here's the most important part, the second serve.
The second, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Going for this, like Pete he'd kind of save it and he'd keep it in his back pocket. And when he was playing Andre or, Boris or, somebody that was, that he had to go bigger, he'd pull it out, and he'd have that ability to almost hit like 2 first serves. And I remember the first point of the match, Mark, in one of his U.S. Open wins against Piolín. And I remember Pete came out in the first point of the match and he served like a rocket 126, which is now would now be like 142. Like that's how big that was at that time.
Right.
And I remember saying to Pete, like after the fact, like, man, you brought like, that was a pretty big serve on the first point. And he looked me right in the eye and goes, I just wanted to let him know what he was about to deal with.
What about return to serve? Who's would you want?
Definitely Djokovic.
Yeah.
Because as I said, just in talking about the backhand, it's just there's so much versatility. But he's great at that, the hard return down the middle, and the thing that he's best at is at full stretch. Like at full stretch, Roger or Hewitt would get the ball back, but at full stretch, like Novak can still actually play a more of an offensive return, or a neutral return, and that's where those amazing returns against Roger at the U.S. Open Finals, and at Wimbledon he's able to lock down on those breakers against Roger in that epic match and just not miss. Yeah. And you're like, how does this guy do it? And again, it's a combination of his size, his eyes, his range, and impeccable technique.
Whose net game would you want?
Edberg was a great, more of a movement type volleyer. He covered the court better. But I think my brother's hands, like when he got to net, which is why he was so great in doubles too, because the quick hands and the reflexes and picking shots up on the he was better with his hands than Edberg, with like basically no swing, just a punch.
Yeah.
But he could also absorb the pace and sort of drop it, which he obviously did against when Lendl was in his prime and Jimbo, kind of rifling the ball. He could just kind of either create pace or take the pace off.
Last one for you, mental toughness. Whose mental toughness would you want?
I mean, that's the toughest one, because I mean, you think Rafa, you think Novak, I mean, but they're just better. I'm not gonna say it's easy to be mentally tough when you're that good, but it's easy to be mentally tough when you're that good. I was mentally tough. I just sucked compared to, like people would say, like, why, I'm like, well, you don't understand. Like, if I go play Agassi, I have no chance. Absolutely no. Rafa, you probably have to give the edge to Rafa, just overall. I mean, I've seen times when Novak's like look disinterested, not in big matches. I've almost never seen Nadal do that,
No, he's locked
but
in for
a
every
big
point.
match, obviously Novak's, I mean, how many times does a guy come from behind?
Yeah.
In matches, in big matches. So all those guys kind of rewrote for me, like the rules of what it is to be so great, because they were very resilient, which
they were
probably don't get enough credit for, because they're just so great.